The prodigal son returns home to the north side for the first time in 21 years, while another prodigal son returns home to his hockey roots. In baseball, the Chicago Cubs split their two-game series against the Milwaukee Brewers while they prepare for a three-gamer against LaKeena's Seattle Mariners. On the south side, the White Sox got swept in a doubleheader by the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeesh.
They faced the Toronto Blue Jays north of the border. We have a Game 7 on Sunday in the NBA Finals, and we have the return of our girl, Miss Christine the Queen Manika. That and a whole lot more. So hashtag Fire Fun Edition starts right now. Welcome to another hashtag Fire and Fun edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. I ain't Sidney Brown, you know it's me. You can follow your Shirley on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow McGee on the Twitter, execute again, IG.
Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We're located at Ward Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're ready, please give Ward Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We're not unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion, do our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. You can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I'll give LaKeena full powers to give you dumbos to Bill and Bill Boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, shout out to our live gang that's checking us out live right now at 12:17 p.m. Central Standard Time on our Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube pages. Much love to the replay gang that's checking us out right now on the replay, also on our Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube pages. Don't you ever forget our motto where we talk sports, music, or entertainment, minus the politics. We will provide.
And we'll always provide you with some of the best here on Second City Sports, of course. It's a theme here with some old friends. We finally got our old friend Christine Mann from KXRB join us at the second hour we got so much to catch up with her on, so we'll talk about that. And of course, another one of our old friends, Mike Berman from NBC5 Chicago. He's at Wrigley right now. We'll tell you why in just a second. He's coming at the bottom of the hour. Also, we'll talk sports media news. Panthers go back-to-back Stanley Cup champs. We got a Game 7 to preview in the NBA Finals and so much more, of course. Speaking of old friends, going with the theme here, the Cubs welcome an old friend to Wrigley. Sammy Sosa has made his return to Wrigley. He's at Wrigley right now as we speak. If you guys have seen some of the various social media sites with the Cubs and the Marquee Network, he's been making the rounds. He gave Jed Hoyer a big hug, Cameron Council a big hug. There's some photos of him in PCA. So not a big surprise because we heard this late last year. Of course, when he came to the Cubs convention. We didn't really hear too much after that, and now he's back at Wrigley. So is it gonna be a statue unveil? Is it gonna be like a number retirement? But Sid, what do you think? Were you surprised?
I was surprised by the news this morning. I got a text from a close source that this was going to happen. I said, "Oh, okay." Because as you mentioned, the last thing we heard of Sammy Sosa is that he appeared at the Cubs convention earlier this year in the calendar year, and we haven't heard anything else from him since. We thought that, well, he's been used as a ploy to get Cubs fans to come to the fan convention, which, by the way, it sells out every year, even when Sammy left here 21 years ago. But I digress. But hopefully that the Riggins family looks like obviously they turned the page and they're recognizing one of the Cubs greats from the past 25 years. And so if that happens, whether it's a statue or a number retirement or some sort of celebration, they Sammy Sosa deserves it. I know there's people on the other side that said, well, he cheated the game, even though he wasn't officially caught. Which we're stating facts here, but despite what you think from others on the other side, before that 2003 team, obviously before that 2016 team, Sammy Sosa put the Chicago Cubs on the map. I know what you're going to say. Well, Andre Dawson did that, but he was here for a short amount of time. No disrespect to him. Shout out to that True League Finks commercial he did back in the day on WGN, but I digress. But Sammy Sosa put the Cubs on the map from 1992 until he left here in 2004. Now, the way he left here, obviously, it was ugly. It was a bitter ending to the relationship between him and the team. But for what he did with all those home runs, bringing an international, not just a national, but international spotlight at a time where the game needed. Of course, he had that home run chase with Mark McGuire in 1998. For those fans that are complaining, even for the fans that are celebrating, you would not be watching Cubs baseball right now, and you definitely would not appreciate the Cubs if it wasn't for Sammy Sosa. He settled for what you have with a new renowned image of what you have today for the Northsiders.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're kind of you're sort of like scratch your head thinking, where is all this coming from? And yeah, I do believe that Sosa does belong in the Hall of Fame. Of course, that whole era with him, McGuire, Canseco, and Roger Clemens, and those guys. Those guys deserve to be in. Though there's already a few guys that are in there, Pudge Rodriguez, but I digress. We talked about we started recording this, but it's sort of one of those things where you can't treat these guys like pariahs just because you want to take the moral high ground. I mean, and I'm glad that I don't know if it was Ricketts or maybe it was Jed or maybe if it was Council, maybe it's a little bit of both, of all three, I should say, that kind of asked about this. But I think someone. Like I said, we'll find out as we get into this. The game's about to start in about an hour from now as they host the Mariners. But it'll be interesting to see like what they're gonna do. Is it gonna be a statue thing or something? But I think I'm glad that this whole thing, at least this part of it, is done because it's just like it just seems kind of silly to me.
You're watching and listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. We're talking about Sammy Sosa's return to Wrigley Field after 21-year absence. If you have any questions or comments for us regarding Sammy Sosa's return to the North Side this weekend, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you. Just to wrap up on the Sammy Sosa portion of the discussion. Sammy Sosa will be interviewed today during the radio broadcast of today's Mariners Cubs broadcast with Pat Hughes and Ron Coomer on 670 The Score. So tune in to that to see what he has to say. I'm sure, like you talked about LaKeena before we started broadcasting live, that I'm sure he'll be on Marquee today. Hopefully, I don't know if he's going to appear on the pregame show. Now I'll monitor that during the break. But I'm interested to see what Sammy Sosa has to say and what the future plans for him and the Cubs. Cubs ownership will be. Will they give him a day of celebration? Will they retire his number? Will they give him a statue next to Harry Carey and Ryan Sandberg and other Cub greats from the past? It's going to be interesting to see what's his thoughts on now about this current Cubs team and what he's going to do with this, what his relationship with this franchise is going forward.
Going to be very interesting to see what happens now on the field of the Cubs. Of course, rained rained out one of the Cubs Brewers games. They won't play. They'll make that up back in mid-August. Until mid-August. But PCA hit his 20th home run. But the Brewers outslugged the Cubs 8-7. They split that now mini 2-gamer. Incidentally, though, PCA Picararo now has 20 home runs with 23 stolen bases and 60 RBIs. The only other player in MLB history to reach those three stats before July in a season. You got to go all the way back to 1987 with Eric Davis. So, again, a tough split for the Cubs. James Aton didn't have his best outing yesterday against the Brewers. But, again, you'll take that as you go up against a very tough Mariners squad. You got to face Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh, who you could probably say is the leader in the clubhouse for AL MVP. And if you're the Cubs, I mean, you're going to a very tough part of your schedule where you may have to slug it out against some of these teams. We'll see what this team is made of as we get into these next week of games.
Yeah, and as I said, that Jameson Taillon was an all-star during our last couple of shows. I know he got rubbed up yesterday, and his personal record is now 7-4 on the year. I still believe he's an all-star, but I believe also too he has to win his next 2 or 3 starts to ensure that he gets a spot on the all-star team. I still think he's an all-star next to Seiya Suzuki, who had a home run on Tuesday, Pete Crow Armstrong, and Cal Tucker. Those are your 4 all-stars right now for the Chicago Cubs. But as we talked about on Monday, if you would have won this series against Milwaukee before Wednesday's rain now, would you have said that this division, NL Central Division, was over? We said no because it's still a long way to go. I think you had a stranglehold on it, but it's still a long way to go. But yesterday showed me something that we talked about all year, LaKeena. This team can win in many different ways. Yes, the weather played a factor in in yesterday's results, but for this Cubs team, and I know a few players have talked about it throughout the year, whether they're up 8-0 or down 8-0, they still going to fight until the bitter end. And you saw that from that Cubs team yesterday, especially during that 8th inning. They didn't have enough to come through, but I guarantee you, if they had an extra inning or two, they would have found a way to win that ball game yesterday.
Oh, I absolutely agree, and I think look, I know some Cubs fans are like, "Oh crap, get rid of Tyler." Relax. So, like I said, the Cubs going to be right there. Then they don't give up, and I think that's all you can ask for. And we'll see how they do against a very talented, very tough Mariners squad, because it's going to get a little bit interesting there. It's like, well, this is going to be kind of like where we'll see what this Cubs team is made of against one of the better teams in the American League. Got Matthew Boyd against Kirby. That's the game that'll be coming up in about just a little over under an hour from now. Kate Horton against Hancock. That should be an interesting matchup there. And Colin Ray against Gilbert. That should be a interesting matchup there as well. Those are your pitching matchups for this weekend series against the Mariners. If you can win 2 out of 3 against this Mariners squad, I think you should be feeling pretty confident going up against St. Louis coming up on Monday.
I'll be there tomorrow/Saturday for those of you watching on the replay. And yes, yours surely will be very hydrated because it's going to be very hot. Where I'm sitting, I won't have to face the sun as much, but your boy is going to be very prepared to cool off tomorrow. So I'm interested to see how Kate Horton pitches for me watching in person, even though I won't be cheering for the Cubs, but that's a whole nother issue. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena here with you. Quickly on the White Sox, they get swept by the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals busted out the whooping six, i.e. their bats. Wilson Contreras and Burleson and the rest of that squad. LaKeena, the White Sox started pitching, took a little bit of took a big hit, but their bullpen took a worse hit. Cam Boozer, bad. Everybody else that came out of the bullpen, bad. Mike Vasso, bad. I still like the young prospects. We talked about them all year. Edgar Carroll, Chase Maedrop, Miguel Vargas. It looks like he's going to be the lone representative all-star for the White Sox this year. Me personally, it should be Shane Smith, but I digress. But I'm interested to see how the White Sox will bounce back as they head north to the border to take on the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, Toronto, they took care of Arizona early this week, but I'm interested to see how the White Sox will bounce back, especially going on the road north of the border.
Now, give them credit for actually, staying. They tied the game, but unfortunately, they were just outslugged when they got to the extra innings. So, give them props for at least making it interesting in that last game, that rubber match, that series with the Cardinals. And unfortunately, still got swept. But look, you're facing a Toronto squad that's actually still is very good. They got their own great talent of young players. You got Davis Martin against Spencer Turnbull. That's tonight's matchup for them. Aaron Savali, we'll see if he has a better start than he did his first start with the White Sox against Jose Barrios. That might be a bit of a deterrent for the White Sox. We'll see. Now, Sunday's matchup, no word on who will start for the Sox on Sunday, but they will face Chris Bassett, who's had a good season so far for Toronto. So if you can win one, I guess if you can break the streak, that's fine. But
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see what happens with this.
Yeah, just looking for the Sox to win one game. If you could take 2, they'll be great. That's above most people's expectations of Camilo Shirley. But if you can find a way to take one of these first 2 games, that'll be great. You mentioned about Davis Martin, not too bad, but he needs to pitch better. That offense for the Sox needs to stay hot. And you mentioned they did what the Cubs did yesterday and to come back, but they couldn't close the deal. But you got to find some way to get some reliable arms in that bullpen. It's time for this revolving door to get your 9 outs. So it has to stop at some point. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid the Kid here with you. We're at the bottom of the hour. We'll have more on the Chicago Cubs and the rest of Major League Baseball and the rest of Chicago sports as well with our guest, Mr. Mike Berman from NBC5 Chicago Sports. He's going to hop on with us, and he's going to give us his thoughts about Sammy Sosa, the way this Cubs team is playing right now, and his thoughts also on the Chicago Bears and where he sees them finishing up for this 2025 season. I'm Sid the Kid. You're listening to Second City Sports. Stay right there. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. On Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel, you can find us at Sports Zone Chicago. And on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Time out. How are you feeling right now? Happy? Excited? Angry? Overwhelmed? One of the best things you can do for your mind health is to name what you're feeling. It can sharpen your awareness and help you talk about your feelings with someone you trust. Here are 3 questions to ask yourself. Where are your thoughts right now? In the past, the present, the future? Do you notice any sensations in your body? Is your heart beating fast? Is there a flutter in your stomach? Or are you fully relaxed? What do you need right now? Time with others? Time to yourself? Remember, there's power in this awareness. So find ways to identify what you're feeling today.
At a time when the news seems as subjective as the partisan politics dividing this country, independent professional journalism has become a resource people need to get the honest and accurate information for their lives. That's why I created JCoinReports.com. As a born and raised Chicagoan, I know the city better than anyone. So my investigative stories are all original, and they'll go deeper to expose the truth by using information obtained from public information databases and in-depth interviews with the movers and shakers. My future stories will introduce you to people and businesses who are changing the world, not just Chicago. My missing person stories will spotlight those who you don't hear about in the mainstream media who are often overlooked. If you want to hear my personal views on things around the world, check out my blog site, which is based off of factual information on my life experiences. There's also past episodes of my weekly sports podcast show, What's Up Cuz, that I host with my real-life cousin, Lance Urban. So if you're looking for all this information and more, check out jcoinreports.com and follow me on Twitter at jcoin.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Welcome back to Second City Sports of the Hashtag Friday Fun Edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
Only took a whole month for me to start the freezing act, my disappearing trick here. You follow McGee on the Twitter, X, and Q's, and the IG.
If you have any questions or comments for our next guest regarding Sammy Sosa and Chicago Cubs and Chicago sports and more, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
Oh, it's been like a long time since we had him on, but we're happy to have him.
It's a couple
back.
of years.
God, it's been that long. So he's a
Yeah.
he's a talented sports anchor reporter for NBC5 Chicago. He is at Wrigley right now as we speak, getting ready for to cover Cubs and Mariners. So let's get him on. He is the one, the only, the fabulous, and super cool, Mr. Mike Berman. Mike,
Yay!
What's up, guys? Good to see you.
Good to see you too. How are you?
It's been too long, so thank you for the invite to come back. Loved being on last time, and looking forward to chatting today.
Well, let's get right to it because, of course, Sammy Sosa is kind of the man of the hour, if you will, over at Wrigley. Were you surprised that he's there, and have you had a chance to talk to him?
Not surprised because it was during the winter when he kind of vaguely apologized for doing things wrong in his past. Nothing specific, but that obviously satisfied the Cubs and Tom Ricketts' desire to have some sort of apology before he was welcomed back into the Cubs family. So when that happened at the convention, at the Cubs convention, we kind of knew that there'd be moments during the season where he'd be around. I think he was at spring training at some point. I think we saw some of that on social media, and then but just cool that it happens to be today because I was coming out here to do a different interview, and ends up we'll get to talk to Sammy. Haven't talked to him yet, but expecting to talk to him midway through the game.
What's been the reaction of the current Cubs players when Sosa arrived there earlier today? We saw the pictures of P-Core Armstrong on social media. It looks like he was having fun with Sammy. Craig Counsell, the manager, gave him a big hug. What were some of the reactions for some of the other players?
I'm sorry to let you down. I didn't talk to any other players. I just had this one-on-one that I was doing. So I did that and then was up here in the press box. But I saw that social video too. It looked like PCA had some fun saying hi to him. Look, I think anyone who plays for the Cubs understands Sammy's importance to the history of the team and what he accomplished, regardless of what you think about how he may have achieved those numbers. So I think for any of them, Paul Sullivan, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
I think that hey, if you're a baseball player, if you play baseball for a living, you think it's pretty cool shaking hands and dapping up a guy who hit more than 600 homers and has meant that much to the Cubs and their fans.
Well, LaKeena is muted and we can't hear her.
Okay, I'm glad. I was like, is something? Are my AirPods not working?
No. Sorry, my bad. But yeah, let's talk about the current Cubs here, Mike, because PCA, of course, we talked about earlier his numbers. Do you think he could keep it up? And do you think he's among the favorites for NL MVP?
Well, starting with your second question, I think the answer is yes. I mean, he's been a 5-tool guy. And the Cubs are in first place and tracking to make the playoffs. So, a lot of times that can tip the scales. Are you on a good team? Did you help your team get to the postseason? It's really been remarkable watching him because we watched him last year, and the glove, the speed, those things were obvious. But the way he's come along, hitting the ball, hitting for power, driving in runs, yesterday becoming the youngest Cub ever to join the 2020 club. It's been pretty cool to see. And I'll just tease this, that the one-on-one I was doing was with Kyle Tucker, which we're going to have on Sports Sunday on Sunday night. And I asked him about PCA, and he said the thing that amazes him is just how good he's been in all of those. You talk about the 5-tool player. He's really been good at all of them. The average isn't 300, but I think it's in the 270s. But I think, he's someone who's just to watch this meteoric ascent and the way he's just like exploded onto the scene, not just in Chicago, but nationally, has been pretty cool. And I think what takes him to another level, and I think what endears him even more to Cubs fans, he's got that great personality. He's got the personality and that swag that anyone who's a fan of the Cubs really loves. So you place that on top of what he's doing on the field, and you can see how he's so beloved right now.
I want to ask you about the. Okay, I want to ask you about the Cubs starting staff. Is dealing with injuries to Justin Steele, who's out for the year. Shota Imanaga looks like he's on his way back, hopefully from that hamstring. Talk to us about the other starting pitchers that have been filling the void, like Matthew Boyd, who's going to start today, and rookie Cade Horton, who's going to start tomorrow. Talk to us about the other starting pitcher that has been doing the job.
Well, you mentioned Matthew Boyd. I think he's been the unsung hero of the staff. He's been really consistent and given them so many quality starts. And the fact that he's coming from the left side, that's a bonus. I think Jameson Tyons did a really nice job. Didn't have a great outing yesterday, but he's done a good job holding down the fort along with Boyd while Steele and Imanaga have been out. And Cade Horton, you see the stuff. It's for him. He's being a rookie like that. It's about finding the consistency, and that's easier said than done when you're that young and in your rookie season. But it goes without saying, they badly need Shota back and healthy as soon as possible. And I think, it's going to be incumbent on Jed Hoyer to swing some sort of deal for a starting pitcher at the deadline to fortify that rotation, especially like you said, knowing Steele's done for the year. This Cubs team clearly has a chance to do damage in October. And the offense has been so good and the staff has been really solid, but I think everyone would agree it'd be good to add another good piece to the starting rotation.
Well, you just answered my next question about
sorry.
No. Actually, that's a good thing. So you actually kind of read my mind. But what do you think the ceiling is for the Cubs? Can they get to perhaps maybe compete with the Dodgers and the Phillies and the Mets, or if it's pitching, or do you think they need another hitter perhaps to kind of add some depth?
I mean, I feel good about their offense and the bats. I think for them, it comes down to, can they add a piece to the rotation? Can they maybe add a piece to the bullpen? Palencia he's got electric stuff in the ninth inning, but he's young, right? He's inexperienced. And you talk about September games trying to shut the door in the ninth, and you talk about in October playoff baseball. Those are big asks for younger guys who don't have as much experience. And so I think the most important thing for them is fortifying the rotation and the bullpen. And then, what's the ceiling? I think the sky's the limit. It's hard to predict what happens in short postseason series. That's unpredictable, but we've seen them, fade. They faced the Dodgers 7 times this year.
Mm-hmm.
They won the season series. I don't think there's any question that they can compete with the best teams in the National League come the playoffs.
And we talked about the starting rotation earlier with the unsung heroes like Matthew Boyd and Cade Horton. Talk to us about the unsung heroes in that bullpen. Looks like Craig Counsell's finally, if you're a Cubs fan, finally found this mixing. Mm-hmm. Chris Flex, who I saw on the South Side last year. Mike, I'm a White Sox fan. But
I know.
Chris Flex, and of course you have Brad Keller, another thorn in the White Sox. I'll leave that alone. But about him, and of course Porter Hodge, who's currently injured. But talk to us about those unsung heroes. It looks like Craig Counsell's really found his mark with those guys in that bullpen in those middle innings.
Well, how about Drew Pomerantz, who I guess was close to retirement,
Mm-hmm.
and he still hasn't given up a run the entire year.
Mm-hmm.
That's outrageous. So there's your unsung hero. But it does feel like those middle inning guys are in a good place. More of a question of, can you count on, like Ryan Presley has settled in nicely as a setup guy. I know that you probably brought him here, hoping he'd be your closer, but If they're going to go with Palencia, can he get the job done? Like we talked about earlier, in those high leverage moments, in pressure packed situations. And if not, do you need to bring in someone else that you feel more comfortable with? But you're right. The middle inning guys have, for Council, have settled in, and they feel really solid.
Talked to our buddy Mike Berman from NBC5 Chicago here on Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you. Let's switch gears. We're going to talk some Bears. Of course, the Bears finished up both OTAs. They're going to be geared up for training camp right around this time next month. With all the moves, Ben Johnson, all the offseason moves, getting Joe Tunney, and some of the other moves that the Bears made. What's your feeling about the Bears this coming season, Mike?
I think that they did. Look, priority. There were two. The two biggest priorities in the offseason were finding the right coach and improving the offensive line. And I think that they checked the boxes for both of those. Obviously, it'll remain to be seen. It remains to be seen what kind of impact Ben Johnson makes, how drastic it is. But I have a good feeling about it. I don't think you become a guy that the entire league covets for no good reason. He would have been the biggest hire of last year's head coach cycle. He wanted to go back to Detroit, try and win the thing there as offensive coordinator. So I think he's going to be the right guy, especially to work with Caleb Williams to get the offense functioning better, and to when you have timeouts, to call them and not let the clock run out, things like that. And then I think that the line was that was one line was 1A, because obviously Caleb was just crushed over and over last year. 67, 68 sacks.
Yep.
So to get Tooney at left guard, who's a star, to get Drew Dahlman at center, who's regarded as one of the best centers, and Jonah Jackson playing right guard. He's got some familiarity with Ben Johnson. He's made a Pro Bowl in the past. And then, Darnell Wright's your right tackle. They like how he's come along. I think that's really, really strong. Left tackle remains to be seen. How's Braxton Jones gonna come back after injury? And if it's not him, is it gonna be Karan Amagaji? Is it gonna be Ozzie Trapillo, who's a rookie? That's obviously always a big ask, to be the starting left tackle as a rookie. But I think they like him, and I do think they like Braxton. But I think the health is gonna determine a lot. So if left tackle is up to snuff, I think that they've done a great job addressing the line. Now, all that said, I think they've got a really tough schedule. And I think we being media, but also fans, it'll be harder for fans, because obviously they're excited. They want wins. They want playoffs. But I think we need to use a little nuance next year as we judge what happens, because they could be a good football team and they could be really competitive, but they could win 7 or 8 games. I mean, you're talking about, because you're playing this last place schedule, you're matched up against the 49ers in their division. They were only last place because everyone on their team was hurt. They're going to probably be back to being a team that expects to win the division and compete for a spot in the Super Bowl. You got to go to Philly, Super Bowl champs. You got to go to DC. Jaden Daniels and that team, really good. Obviously, you got to play Lions, Packers, Vikings twice. I'm forgetting if there's any other major notables, but the point is, it's a challenging schedule. So I think most important is, let's see how Caleb Williams develops behind a better offensive line and with a coach who's better equipped to help him grow. And if he's better, if there's a clear improvement and consistency with him, even if the Bears don't make the playoffs, I think you've got to feel good about that. Now, of course, you want to make the playoffs. I hope they do. But I think I predicted when the schedule came out, I think on air I said 9 and 8. If that happens, that'd be really good.
Definitely improvement from the 5-win team that we saw last year. I want to get your thoughts on new defensive coordinator Dennis Allen. Of course, it looks like they're going to be playing more man-to-man this year. I want to get your thoughts on him. And number 2, can we please find the sack partner opposite Montez Sweat? Because that's been missing for the last couple of years.
Yeah, they need that. And they invested heavily in Dio Odengbo from the Colts, hoping that he's that guy. But yeah, because, I think last year what you see is because Montez didn't have the numbers last year. And I think, injury did play a part. But also, when you don't have anyone else who's scaring an offense opposite him, they're just gonna double him constantly, and it's gonna be hard for him to make the impact you want him to make, that you're paying him to make. So yeah, that's very important for the defense, is being able to get after the passer. And I think, Dennis Allen wants to be aggressive, and he's going to be okay putting corners on an island. And I think you feel good about it. You certainly feel great about Jalen Johnson. He's, at this point, I think he's proven himself to be on the short list of the best corners in the game. And Tyreek Stevenson's had his moments. If he's more consistent as a third-year player, that's good. And your safeties with Brisker is at this point now healthy. Kevin Byard, really solid veteran. Kyler Gordon, locked up with an extension, playing slot corner. Yeah, I think that secondary is really good. Getting after the passer, I think, is going to be what determines how good the defense is.
Absolutely. Now, the offense, of course, you got Caleb Williams, of course, Roma Dunze, DJ Moore. How important is it for those? And I know Luther Burden Jr., Burden III, of course, from your alma mater, Mizzou.
I'm about to say, LaKeena, where I went to school.
I know. I got you. I was getting to it. Don't worry. Yeah, I got you. How important is it for those guys to offense have a great start in this season coming up?
Yeah, that'd be good, especially when you've learned a new playbook, you're in a new system. You want to feel like you hit the ground running. So absolutely, it would be a big deal for them, and especially after last year, how many disasters they had, how many times they were challenged by all the sacks, all the negative plays, penalties. You want to hit the ground running and doing some good things offensively in that Monday Night Football opener at Soldier Field against the Vikings. And I just feel good about it. I just think again, going back to what I said earlier, Ben Johnson isn't regarded the way he is for no reason, right? I mean, people in the league, they know who can cut it. They know who, knows ball, who's got some unique wrinkles that really make things difficult on a defense. And I think that's what Ben Johnson has. Now it's going to be up to Caleb to take care of the ball and run that offense and make it hum. And hopefully they do get off to a good start, because week 1 Vikings, week 2 at the Lions. It's a tough start.
Yeah. And I believe after that, that's the third week. I think they host the Dallas Cowboys in America's game.
Correct.
So so that's a tough stretch coming out of the first 4 games before the bye week in October.
And right after the bye week is Monday night in DC.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
And do you think we'll see a few replays of the Hail Mary leading up to that game?
Oh yes, about a million times.
Just a couple.
I think
a million.
Sid, I think a million is on the low side.
Okay, yeah, give or take $1
yeah,
million.
yeah, no doubt about that. Last question from me, Mike, as we hanging out with Mike Berman of NBC5 Chicago Sports right here, or Sports Zone Chicago, Second City Sports, City LaKeena hanging out here with you. Mike, last question from me. I'll ask you a question about my White Sox. Of course, as LaKeena said, we're in a fun, bad portion of the season, of course. I said before the season started that even the Sox go 62-100 or they win 55 games, it's not going to look as bad as a year ago because we all know that Pedro Grifol was in over his head. Half the players that were here last year weren't on the team a year ago. You got players like Chase Madrave, Edgar Carroll, Tim Elko, he's back down in Charlotte for the moment.
Yeah.
But you start to see some flashes for some of these young guys. Can we start giving GM Chris Guest his flowers now, or do we still have to be a little bit more patient?
Well, I'm willing to give him a few flowers because you're right. You see some of those young guys who he's traded for, making early impacts. That feels promising. You see Will Venable way more equipped to do the job than Pedro Grifol was.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I think that the speed at which they can become a contender again may come down to when does Justin Ishbia actually take over? Because I think at that point, way more dollars will be invested in players and payroll. And, right now that payroll is so low, you're still talking about Benintendi being, as not even an $80 million contract being biggest. I mean, Juan Soto almost makes $80 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but I think he makes 60 something,
Right.
Yeah.
You got to spend money if you want to compete in this day and age. So I think there's some good early signs, but I feel like there's still a ways off before we're talking about them being, legitimately competitive.
All right, last question for me, Mike, real quick. Ryan Store's other team, the Bulls, who unfortunately he won't be selling them anytime soon. The draft's coming up next week. Giannis. What do you think? What do you think about the state of the Bulls at this point?
They might be the most depressing situation just because they're just feels like they live in this no man's land, like wandering this desert of mediocrity. What is their plan? I mean, once again, there's AK says they're happy to be playing in the play-in tournament. Yeah, and then there you are picking late in the lottery, which that's going to lower your chances at hitting with a star.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, how brutal is it that they lose the coin flip to the Mavericks and they're going to be getting Cooper Flag? I mean, get out of here. You know what? If it were the Bulls, the ping pong balls somehow wouldn't have bounced their way.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It just feels like like they're going to be in another kind of another year where they're like playing tournament. Hooray!
Playing. Get those t-shirts now, Mike.
Yeah. Playing.
Playing. I love it.
All right, this has been NBC5's Mike Berman. You can catch his reports nightly on NBC5 News with another good friend of the show, his chorus, Miss Casey Sanderhart. And catch that interview this Sunday on Sports Sunday with PCA, correct?
Kyle Tucker.
Kyle Tucker. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
With Kyle Tucker.
All good.
Sorry about that. We'll catch you on Sports Sunday with that interview. And you can follow him on Twitter X at Mike Berman NBC. Once again, at Mike Berman NBC. Mike, thank you as always for joining us on the program. Enjoy the game today. Enjoy that Sammy Sosa presence, and we'll definitely have you back on this program down the road.
Hey, Sid and LaKeena, you guys are awesome. Keep doing your thing. Keep crushing it. Thank you for having me on again. And
No
have
problem.
a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend.
You too.
too,
Casey,
thank
tell
you.
Casey we said what's up. Thanks.
I will. Absolutely.
All right,
Thank
take care.
you.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye. All right. All right, that was NBC5 Chicago's Mike Berman here on Second City Sports. Sports Social Chicago. We got our other old friend, Miss Christine Mack from KXRB. We haven't seen him. We haven't seen her in like forever, it seems. So
Yeah.
it feels that way. We'll catch up with her coming up next. We'll talk White Sox, NFL, how she felt about the U.S. Open, that crazy finish.
And we got
on
to
Sunday.
talk about the Pope too. Did her and Chris run into the Pope overseas?
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, well, so yeah. Did she and her husband Chris and Pope Leo, did they have a little bit of a run in? We'll have all that with her coming up next. LaKeena McGee, Sidney Brown on Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. Christine Manika from KXRB coming up right after this.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, on Facebook.
Operator 901, where's the emergency?
127 Berman.
Okay, what's going on there?
I'd like to order a pizza for delivery.
Ma'am, you've reached 911. This is an emergency line.
Large with half pepperoni, half mushroom.
You know you've called 911. This is an emergency
Do you
line.
know how long it'll be?
Okay, ma'am, is everything okay over there? Do you have an emergency or not?
Yes.
And you're unable to talk because...
Right.
Is there someone in the room with you? Just say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay, it looks like I have an officer about a mile from your location. Are there any weapons in your house?
No.
Can you stay on the phone with me?
No. See you soon. Thank you.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
When I'm flying, I put my helmet on, my visor down, my mask up. You don't know who I am. Whether I'm African American, Asian American, Hispanic, white, male or female. You just know I'm an American airman, kicking your butt. I'm General C.Q. Brown Jr. Come join us.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're so
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports and the hashtag Friday Fun Edition. You're locked in, loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, in the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Kid McGee on the Twitter, X again on IG.
As we kick off hour number 2 of this fabulous program, if you have any questions or comments for us, especially for our next guest, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
All right, so let's not waste any more time. She is our weekend girl. We haven't seen her in like 2 months, I guess, give or take. So from KXRB in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, she's the one, the only Miss Christine, the Queen, Manika.
Yay! Mwah, 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 mwah.
Oh, you're too much. Oh, you give me too much credit.
How are you?
We're doing good. It's just that time of the year where things are moving quick and summer's here.
She ain't lying about that. Summer is here. I know we're going to get to the sports, Christine, but yours truly and LaKeena, along with our listeners and viewers, we want to know the juicy stuff. I know you and Chris had a great honeymoon overseas. We saw the pictures on your social media. Tell us about it. Go.
I mean, gee, it was a great. I mean, we were out in Ireland and London for 12 days, and the weather was beautiful, which doesn't happen too often over the pond there. So it was, I don't know, mid 60s from lower 70s, sunny,
Not bad.
and it was pretty nice. So we had a fantastic time. The food was actually pretty good in both Ireland and in London. We enjoyed that. We enjoyed just going to different museums, and we did some palace tours as well in there, some castles, and it was an incredible experience, worth the wait.
Well, were you able to meet up with Pope Leo over there?
Oh gosh, right? It's so funny because literally the day that it was announced that Pope Leo is the Pope, we were driving into Illinois to fly out the next day for Europe. So to kind of see Chicago buzzing while we were there, it was so awesome. And it just seems like more being a Catholic myself, it just seems more relatable to have not only an American Pope for the first time, but to have a Pope from Chicago. Like, how crazy is that in itself? And to actually, be listening to what he is saying in English, being able to understand it. It's so cool. What a time.
Yeah, something we could take from the Cubs this year is that Pope Leo's a White Sox fan, so that means that we're God's team.
It doesn't mean that they didn't try to claim him.
Yeah, they tried and they failed, so he left them at the front door.
Yeah. Shout out to his brother for correcting everybody.
Yes.
Well, and then to see, Pope Leo have on the White Sox hat and him just doing the "Go White Sox" chant the other day in the square. Like, how wild is that? I don't think, and we were talking about this the other day, I don't think there's ever been a Pope as so sports heavy or so enthusiastic than Leo has been. The only one that can probably come to mind for me in my lifetime anyway was probably Pope John Paul II when he first began his journey as Pope. So yeah, it's pretty awesome to kind of just see a little bit of a rejuvenation.
I was going to ask you about when you and Chris were in London. Did you guys get a chance to go over that famous intersection where the Beatles had that famous photo crossing that famous?
Yeah. You mean Abbey Road? Yeah. So where we were at, we actually stayed about 2 blocks away from Abbey Road.
Oh, okay.
So the first night when we were there, we went to dinner at this cute little Italian place called Morso's in the Camden area. Yeah, the Camden area. And that's about that wasn't that far away from where we were staying. And then we went right over to Abbey Road pretty much right after dinner, and we walked by there a couple of times, and it's so cool to see that and just to kind of feel the history surrounding it.
Yeah, really. Well, we'll keep it with the White Sox theme here. Of course, Andrew Vaughn, he was traded to Milwaukee last week, and we talked about with our buddy Mike Berman from MC5 Chicago. We're in the fun bad portion of this rebuild for the White Sox. We've seen, guys like Chase Majov, Tim Elko, Sid's guy. Of course, he's back down in Charlotte. But so what do you think about where the White Sox are? Yeah, what do you think about where the White Sox are this time, Christine?
As long as they're keeping ahead of the Rockies, I am okay because the Rockies can more likely than have that title of the worst team ever. So far, as long as they're ahead of the Rockies, I'm doing okay. I didn't
Uh,
really expect much. I guess that's what I'm saying. I really didn't expect much this season with everything in consideration when it comes to just kind of rebuilding the team, getting the new GM and Venable, and yeah, it's just kind of been a hodgepodge of everything this season. And yeah, I take every little good thing that happens into consideration, like Beneteri getting that grand slam the other night. That's something positive to take away from the season. So it's the little things that you just got to be excited about for the White Sox for a little bit longer.
Speaking of a hodgepodge, breaking news occurred a few hours ago, or actually early this morning, that Sammy Sosa is making his return to Wrigley Field. He's there right now ahead of the Mariners Cubs series, or two of LaKeena's favorite baseball teams this weekend at Wrigley. You're sure he's going to be there tomorrow, but opposite of cheering for the Cubs, as you know, Christine. But
Yeah.
I want to get your thoughts about Sammy Sosa, what he meant to the Cubs franchise, and what do you think he's going to mean with the Ricketts family going forward?
Everything. I mean, Sammy Sosa was everything to the Cubs organization. I don't think there's really one word to describe the excitement that he brought to the team when, back then, believe it or not, they were considered one of the worst teams in baseball. But he just brought that excitement and brought Wrigley some pride and joy. I was too young to really understand what the rift was between Sammy Sosa and the Cubs because, I was probably, I don't know, in first grade when I realized who Sammy Sosa was, and that was kind of towards the end of his tenure with the Cubs. So I'm not really familiar with everything that happened in between, but the fact that he's there now after 21 years later coming back to Wrigley Field, mending that relationship, it shows that there's some there's a positive path going forward between the Cubs and Sammy Sosa.
That's all I can ask for, I guess.
Yeah.
And you saw the pictures and stuff like that. You saw that cool photo with PCA, and that's making a round. So it's good to see it. We'll see if he talks to. I'm sure he's going to talk to Boog and JD on Marquee. Of course, he's already expected to talk with Pat and Ron on the Score and their radio broadcast coming up here now. So far, with the way everything's set up with baseball, has there been a team that's impressed you? Has there been a team that has kind of disappointed you this year so far, Christine?
I think a lot of people can say that the Braves are kind of disappointing just because they had such high expectations going into the season of just dominating the division and dominating the league. That hasn't really been the case. I'm surprised how chippy the Padres are getting between the Dodgers and their series right now. That it's a little bit of a battle between the California teams, which is exciting to see. I really shouldn't be shocked about the Astros, but they're at the top of their division, as some would always predict at this point. And my husband has different opinions. I still think that the Angels can at least grab a wild card spot. They haven't been playing bad baseball. They're somewhere in the middle of their division. So I still have a little bit of hope for that prediction at the start of the season.
Well, the Angels took 3 or 4 from the New York Yankees, so I think they're currently 1 game under 500. So new manager Ron Washington has those guys playing well, despite releasing Tim Anderson about a month ago. Johan Manika, another former White Sox player, barely hanging on to a roster spot right now. And Kyle Hendricks, who started the other day, former Cub, he's been doing well as of late for the Anaheim Angels. I wanted to touch. We'll probably get into this more in discussion between me and you later, LaKeena. But with the Dodgers Padres series, I did watch the 9th inning earlier today, and Fernando Tatis Jr., the X-rays are negative on his right hand, but it's been 8. I think it was 8 hit batsmen in that series, and I get Mike Shildt, the Padres manager, who came out because he was concerned about his player. Talking about Tatis, who got injured. I don't know if you saw the highlight last night, Christine, but he came out. He was mad, yelling, and then of course Dave Roberts, the manager of the Dodgers, he kind of apologized after the game. He's like he was concerned for Tatis, but Dave Roberts came out of the dugout and politely tapped, shoved Mike Shelton, and then everybody came out of the dugout. It was a big brouhaha, and then of course Otani gets hit in the back by Suarez, and of course after the warnings were issued, Suarez of the Padres got ejected. But you mentioned about the Padres and Dodgers rivalry. The Padres beat the Dodgers a couple years ago in the playoffs. We saw the brouhaha last year with the Padres leading that best of 5 series 2-1 before the Dodgers came back and won. I'll just say this, as I said to somebody the other day on social media, with their Rafael Devers trade to the Giants from Boston, the Dodgers, as we said, LaKeena, it's not about them winning 120 games. It's about them getting healthy, ready for the playoffs. Now with their Rafael Devers trade and with their bad blood back with the Padres, the Dodgers have real competition for the NL West title this year.
Yeah, I think they really do. And especially since, the Dodgers are they're not falling. I mean, they're still one of the top teams in the league, but it shows that they do have some weaknesses. And I think the Padres are part of that.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure a lot of that was also because the Dodgers won 3 out of 4, and that Padres series, and that piece of prize. There might be some frustration boil over for that one. So now one series going to the NL East. They'll start tonight. It'll be the Phillies and the Mets. They're now tied right now. Well, the Mets have lost 6 in a row, and I was told said I have a friend who is a big Phillies fan. She lives out there in New Jersey. And she's pissed that the Phillies did win 3 out of 4 against the Marlins, but if they had won that game, they would be leading right now. But she digressed with that. So what do you think about that division, the NL East?
I think it's still pretty much up for grabs, especially with the Mets playing better than they have been in the last couple of years. Phillies are stepping up to the plate too, no pun intended. So that's going to be a good series to check out.
Yep. And you mentioned about the Braves earlier, Christine, being one of the most disappointing teams in baseball. Well, they swept the Mets at home earlier this week. So even though they stick technically 6 games under 500, the Mets let the Braves temporarily back in the division race. But as LaKeena said, we'll see what happens down the road as we are in the middle of June here. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. See LaKeena, Christine hanging out here with you. Christine, I want to turn our attentions to the NBA Finals. Have you been watching? I know the Indiana Pacers are forced to Game 7. What are your thoughts on this series and who takes Game 7 in the title on Sunday?
It's kind of a crazy championship. It's a crazy finals in general, and just what a series it's been for any of the teams involved. It's been an exciting year for a playoff basketball, and just watching Tyrese Halliburton, Siakam, all these guys that were basically no-name players to the outside perspective of the Pacers universe. Now everybody knows who Halliburton is and Siakam. It's just kind of cool to see these two teams bring a whole new life to the game and to the young fans out there. You never know. I mean, a lot of people called the Pacers out early and said, oh, they're going to get swept within 4 series. I thought it's going to be at least 5, maybe 6 games. Game 7 being in OKC, that's a tough call. They show up big, the Thunder, when they're at home. And it's the same thing for the Pacers when they were at home. Clearly, look at what happened last night during the game. So it depends who wants it more, in my opinion. And that it depends on the night for these teams. I guess you just really never know what's out there.
Well, it's like I'm glad you said that, Christine, because if it's going to be interesting because it was actually tied like 143 with the most times when in the NBA Finals where there's a team that's about to be eliminated in Game 6, they end up winning it. So it'll be interesting. Like I said, we'll talk about this later. But TJ McConnell's dad, I mean, he's having the time of his life. He had a big game. TJ did yesterday. He hit some big shots for them. He had 12 points off his couple big threes that kind of sealed that win. It'll be interesting for me, at least. It's going to be interesting to see, like you said, Chrissy. It's going to be that simple. Who wants it more? So I think that's really going to be the key. Who wins Game 7?
All right, let's turn our attention to hockey. We have another return, but not to Chicago, but to his birthplace. Jonathan Toews, the former captain of the Chicago Blackhawks, he sat out the last 2 or 3 years dealing with various injuries, concussion issues that he's been suffering throughout his career. He's going to make his return to his hometown team. He's going to sign a contract on July the 1st to play for the Winnipeg Jets. Thoughts?
Sad. I'm very sad. I want him to go back to the Blackhawks, so at least we can have one of the two superstars, be a full Blackhawk player for his entire career. So I'm excited that he's coming back, but at the same time, I'm like, no, don't go to Canada. Stay in Chicago, please. But I get it. He wants to play for his home team, and that's pretty cool to see too.
Well, the Jets are, of course, just made the playoffs this year, and I think they're kind of close to winning the cup. I think that's probably another reason why Taves wanted to go to Winnipeg. But he grew up not too far from where they play, so not a big surprise there. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. LaKeena, Sidney, and Christine hanging out here with you. Let's talk some NFL for a little bit here, guys. Jair Alexander, who was sought after the Packers released him a couple weeks ago. He made a decision. He signed with Baltimore, beefing up that secondary. Of course, you guys probably don't know this, but he and Lamar Jackson actually played together when they were at Louisville. Of course, Lamar won the Heisman Trophy. Jair was actually a second-team All-ACC at Louisville. So thoughts? What did you guys think about that signing? Christine, I'll start with you.
It's one less player for the Bears to worry about, and it's good for Harbaugh to get his line beefed up and going again, so he can have another shot at the crown.
I think that Kyle Hamilton, and I'm forgetting the other player's name for them. Marlon Humphrey. Marlon Humphrey. That's going to be a good secondary for Baltimore. So hopefully Lamar Jackson and Baltimore, like they did most of last year, put up points, let that secondary hunt, because they're one of the best secondaries in the league in terms of forcing turnover. So it's just another weapon for with Alexander in that secondary. I think Baltimore, if they stay healthy, they'll be one of the top 5 defensive secondaries in the league.
Now, just when I think the last time we talked to you, Christine, there was these. Aaron Rodgers had not made up his mind yet on what he wants to do. Well, now
he made up his mind. That was just clickbait. Of course, he made up his mind.
Well, no, yeah, of course. Now he's with the Steelers. What do you think, Christine?
I think from what I've been hearing, I haven't heard anything negative from the players when it comes to Rodgers being on the Steelers now officially. I think it's pretty obvious that Tomlin was advocating for Rodgers to be his quarterback after reading some reports about it. And he's not one to turn away from a challenge. And, this could be a big challenge for him because Rodgers got a personality, not just on the field, but off the field as well, where you never know what's going to be the headline of the day when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, like him getting married out of the blue. Like, when did that happen? Nobody had even an idea that he was thinking about getting married or settling down. So you never know with Aaron Rodgers, but I think so far it's working out pretty well. He got paid pretty much what I thought he was going to get paid for the 1-year deal. Nothing more, nothing less when it comes to his abilities nowadays. And, unlike his season that he played with the Jets, I hope that he looks healthier than what he did, because he did not look good playing with the Jets last year. He just looked slow. He looked like he was limping, not literally, but he just looked like he was weaker. And I hope he does have a good season, and if it's not ending up with a championship, then at least leave on a good note that you came back strong than what you did last year, and hang it up.
Yeah, let's be honest here. That Jets offensive line did him no favors either. They couldn't run protect. They definitely couldn't pass protect, and so as we bring it home here to Chicago and discuss the Bears, I don't think the schedule was out yet. When you last joined us. But speaking of the Bears schedule, the Bears will host the Steelers in November as part of that 3 games in 11 days around Black Friday and Thanksgiving. Speaking of Black Friday, the Bears will play the Bears will play at Philadelphia on Black Friday this year. They will not face the Lions on Thanksgiving this year like you predicted. So Bears on Thanksgiving is out the window. They'll be playing the day after in Philadelphia on Black Friday.
I think that stinks.
I know.
Yeah.
But the Bears will open up the season in week 1 against the Minnesota Vikings on Monday Night Football. They'll play and they'll play the Packers here in Chicago on Saturday, December 20th. The time is to be determined. Me personally, I think it'll be on Saturday night. Cold in Chicago. And also they'll play the Cowboys in the third week of the season in September. Tom Brady will be calling that game for Fox. And also they'll play Minnesota, Green Bay, and Detroit. I think they go to Detroit the second week of the season, LaKeena. So
so you have Minnesota and Detroit right off the bat.
Yep.
Let's go with that.
Yep.
Yes,
and you have Dallas.
guys.
And you have Dallas after that. And then, of course, the first week in October, the day before my birthday, you have a bye week. So after the first 4 games, you have a bye week to start off October. The only home game that the Bears will have in the month of October is October 19th against the Derek Carr-less New Orleans Saints.
Derek Carr-less New Orleans Saints. I have at least a little bit of hope from the Cowboys. Maybe they're still struggling a little bit with their new coach. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be the interesting part. Oh, incidentally, Cal Raleigh just hit his major league leading 28th home run. So
your guy, LaKeena.
Yeah, I know.
Your
Yeah. Mariners got the early 1-0 lead there. But let's talk about the U.S. Open this past Sunday, Christine. Of course, JJ Spawn. After about an hour and a half, give or take, rain delay, he comes back. He hits monster putts on 17, 18. To win over at Oakmont. What were your thoughts? And were you surprised? What were your thoughts about this whole crazy final round?
He's been hungry for a win. Just, the first tournament of the season to the Players with that playoff with Rory. He was looking for it. And honestly, the way that Oakmont plays and how that board was looking, anybody could have been in that final circle during that round. Sam Burns played very well. Adam Scott played very well, and it was really, who can beat Oakmont. It wasn't beating the other players. That's who could ever beat that golf course. It's the hardest course that they play when it comes to the rotation in the U.S. Open. So the fact that JJ Spawn was under par by the end of it, it's pretty amazing. And what a guy to win it too. So Chris has played with JJ Spawn a couple of times, and he said nothing but nice things. Yeah, nothing but nice things about who he is as a person, as a player. Just a fantastic guy. And what a great win for him, a major win, and something that's going to go down in history now. He's a part of PGA history.
And your husband knew him right before the stardom, so
not bad.
So maybe those good vibes will transfer your husband's way. We have no doubt about it. We have no doubt about it. Last question for me, Christine. I'll make this statement first. I know you're in South Dakota, but thank goodness that Comcast and CHSN finally got their ish together, and yours truly has been watching that channel in my living room. So even I am happy, but part of me still wanted some of those games on Channel 9, but that's all gone by the wayside now. So I wanted to get that out of the way since we have you here. But I want to ask you about the Chicago Bulls. I know they got the 12th pick in the eBay draft coming up in the next week or so, but we want to ask you about that. I want to ask you about Billy Donovan. He was asked to talk to the New York Knicks about their job. The Bulls said no. Now we know why, because not only that he got his extension, but Arturas Karnisovas and Jim Margavas also got secret extensions. Now the Bulls will be stuck in mediocrity for the next how many years? Thoughts?
Gosh. Well, I mean, that's Jerry for you. Jerry wants what Jerry wants. It's a Jerry's world, and we're all living in it.
Let's bring up a question real quick from our guy Foston Covers. What does everyone think about the CHSN pulling free over-the-air Sox, Hawks, and Bulls games, removing access from the common man? I think it stakes no more, or sorry, 2 days, no more games. I'll start. I'll give my answer first, Foster. As me and LaKeena say all the time, people want and need options. For those of you that don't know, with the deal between Comcast and CHSN, if you wanted to watch CHSN over the air with the antenna, now that option is gone. If you live in the state of Wisconsin, the state of Indiana, I believe in Iowa too, you can still get it. But if you live in the state of Illinois, whether it's Chicagoland area, Northwest Indiana, or downstate, the CHSN antenna fee, out of there.
Bye-bye.
I think that's sad. People want and need more options.
Yeah, that's
I
was gonna say that's unfortunate, but in a way, isn't that kind of where we're heading to, where the antenna isn't really a thing anymore? So they're just trying to get ahead of that curve. I hate to put it like that, especially for people that have access to only an antenna. But in reality, yeah, that's where kind of the world is heading.
Yeah, the antenna and the analog stuff, that's been, going, by the wayside in the last like 15, basically since the turn of the aughts. So yeah, of course, money, unfortunately, that's where it's the digital and the streaming is where people are going to be making their money now. So unfortunately, with this whole thing with CHSN, getting pulled from Comcast and other CHSN pulling that free feed, yeah, they're going to want their money now. So let's be out there with Comcast. So yeah, of course, I'm not surprised that they pulled it. So yeah, I feel bad for the folks that can't get it and they got to pay money. But unfortunately, this is the future of what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, there are 70 plus channels on the antenna. It used to be 5.
Yes.
Yeah, with all those main channels have sub channels now, like WGN and NBC and all that. Yeah, that's where as far as the antenna. But as we said before, we'll say it again. The future is streaming. Yes, I like the broadcast channels. You still anything that has live sports, especially with these broadcast channels, i.e. the NFL and the NBA in particular, you're going to get ratings because people like live sports. That's where it makes the most money. All the TV shows that we like watching, where there's quote unquote reality TV or drama, comedy, they're all on streaming. If it's not like back in the day, LaKeena and Christine, you can ask your parents about this. It wasn't like back in the day you had to watch it on television. If you didn't have to record your own VCR, you had to watch it or wait till the summer for it to repeat. Those days are gone. You can watch it anytime via the streaming services that you have.
Oh yeah, I grew up with saying we have to get home right now to watch this, otherwise we'll miss it, and just like racing home.
Yeah, delayed viewing, and delayed viewing is also a thing too. So they force you to get to pretty much, Foster. Yeah. Unfortunately, this is what the future is.
And coming from,
go ahead.
And I was just saying, working in TV myself, that's what everyone is catering towards now, is streaming service and how you can get basically maybe news or sports whenever you want it based on your time. So yeah, it's been coming for a long time.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but this is the future, folks. So we gotta adapt, folks. Sorry, that's just
yeah, we did when televisions came along. We adapted with iPods and of course
satellite
now with YouTube,
TV,
where we broadcast and all came along. So yeah, this is something we gotta get used to. Christine, thank you so much for joining us in your great return. I'm glad you and Chris had a great time on your honeymoon. Yeah, I wanted to ask Chris, but I know he's not with you. But his Lakers are now under new ownership.
Yes.
Christine. Christine went away from us.
Sorry, can you hear me? Sorry.
Oh yeah, we got you now.
Had a phone call. Fault.
Okay. Yeah, we just wanted to say that I know Chris knows this, that his Lakers now under new ownership. Mark Walter, no more Bus family.
I can't hear you said.
Okay. Well, you know what? I know you got it anyway. So, Christine, thank you so much for joining us today. And you can find her at CMAC at KXRB, of course, on social media. So, Christine, we'll talk about when we'll have you back on. I know this is gonna be a busy time here for you, this summer. I know you got to call a soccer game coming up in a few minutes, so we'll let you go. And thank you so much again, Christine. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good weekend and stay cool.
Yeah, you too.
Take
bye.
care.
All right, bye.
All right. All right. Well, okay. We'll talk about that new thing with the Lakers. We'll talk about we'll recap Thunder and Pacers, previewing Game 7. We'll recap Stanley Cup Finals, some sports media news, our sports potpourri segment coming up next. LaKeena McGee, City Browns. Yes, second season sports on Sports of Chicago. We'll wrap it up with our potpourri segment coming up right after this.
Operator 901, where's the emergency?
127 Berman.
Okay, what's going on there?
I'd like to order a pizza for delivery.
Ma'am, you've reached 911. This is an emergency line.
Large with half pepperoni, half mushroom.
You know you've called 911. This is an emergency line.
Know how long it'll be?
Okay, ma'am, is everything okay over there? Do you have an emergency or not?
Yes.
And you're unable to talk because...
Right.
Okay, is there someone in the room with you? Just say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay, it looks like I have an officer about a mile from your location. Are there any weapons in your house?
No.
Can you stay on the phone with me?
No. See you soon. Thank you.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
When I'm flying, I put my helmet on, my visor down, my mask up. You don't know who I am. Whether I'm African American, Asian American, Hispanic, white, male or female. You just know I'm an American airman kicking your butt. I'm General C.Q. Brown Jr. Come join us.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're so...
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. On the hashtag Friday Fun Edition, you got Sid, you got LaKeena over there. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, again, IG.
This is our sports potpourri segment. This is our last break for today and for the week. So you have any last minute questions or comments of any of our topics that we discussed thus far on today's show, including some breaking news from the Southside Hitmen coming up in just a second. You can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
Score update for Wrigley as Ian Happ hit a home run, and also Michael Busch has had a double and a 2 RBI single, and they don't have an out as of right now. They're up 3-1 against the Mariners in the bottom of the first, I should say. They still don't have an out yet. So so yeah. So,
there's 2 outs now on my TV screen. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah. We can't do play-by-play, so we'll get in trouble. So
Yeah, so it's now 2 outs, but the Cubs have a man on first with 2 outs. As you mentioned, they lead 3-1 at the bottom of the first. Breaking news from the South Side, him and the Chicago White Sox, where these two scored at home. Remember you said David Martin was supposed to start tonight?
Oops. My bad.
He's going on. He's going on the injury list of right forearm strain retroactive to June 17th. Also, Cam Boozer, who I complained about during our segment before Mike Berman, he didn't look good in that St. Louis series. Well, he is going on the IL too with the left shoulder strain, and so they called up Wilkerman, Gonzalez, and left-handed pitcher Jake Plasich, and designated Caleb Freeman for assignment.
Yeah, so I know Willville was going to be scrambling to find a starter for that first game against Toronto.
Mhm.
So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, now we didn't do the schedule for MLB, so we'll do that real quick for this weekend. Of course, we talked about Seattle and the Cubs are playing right now as we speak. You got Texas and Pittsburgh. Baltimore and the Yankees will try to they did salvage the keeper from getting swept against the Angels,
and they finally scored some runs too.
I know, right? Yeah, exactly. They host Baltimore. The first game will be on MLB Network. Detroit and Tampa. We'll see. Tampa's been playing pretty well, so that should be an interesting series down.
Sneaky
down
good,
there.
yeah.
Yep. Of course, talking about the White Sox and Toronto. You got Atlanta and Miami. Of course, for battle for first in the NL East, you've got the Mets and the Phillies. The first game will be on Apple TV Plus, the first game of that. And you got Cincinnati and St. Louis in the NL Central coming up as they continue their series.
All right, the Battle of the Midwest continues with the Milwaukee Brewers and the Minnesota Twins. The Arizona Diamondbacks will visit the Colorado Rockies as the Diamondbacks continue on their road trip. The Houston Astros will face Christine's husband's favorite team, the LA Angels of Anaheim. Anaheim's currently 2 games under 500. Kansas City and San Diego will do battle tonight. That first game will be on Apple TV Plus at 8:40 p.m. Chicago time. And, of course, the Athletics will host the Cleveland Guardians as Cleveland continues their West Coast road trip. The Nationals, who stopped their losing streak yesterday, they'll face the Los Angeles Dodgers. That first game of that series can be seen tonight on MLB Network at 9:10 p.m. Central Standard Time. And the Boston Red Sox and the San Francisco Giants, Rafael Devers will have a chance to get his left back as the new member of the San Francisco Giants. The Boston Red Sox will be marching into town, tra-la, tra-la, tra-la. Rafael Devers, now the member of the Giants, is expected to have a big series. We'll see what happens. That game can be seen also on MLB Network too. So tonight.
For tomorrow, of course, MLB Network 11:10. You got Detroit and Tampa continuing that series. Your FS1 Saturday game of the week. You got Detroit and Tampa, I should say. That's going to be on MLB Network at 11:10 tomorrow morning. And of course, you got Texas and Pittsburgh, the first game. The FS1 game of the week. And your Fox regional coverage, you got the Mets and the Phillies. Most people will get that. And you got Kansas City and San Diego at 6:15. And the MLB Network, you got the Nationals and the Dodgers continuing that series. Your Roku Sunday game, you got the Yankees and Baltimore hosting Baltimore finishing up that series. MLB Network, of course, you'll finish up that series with Texas and Pittsburgh. And your Sunday night game of the week on ESPN, you've got the last game of that series between the Mets and the Phillies. So that is go for this weekend in MLB.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. LaKeena here with you in our Sports Poopery segment. Let's shift over to the NBA Finals. The Indiana Pacers stave off elimination with a 108-91 win over the Oklahoma City Thunder. That best-of-7 series is now tied up at 3 games apiece, with Game 7 set for OKC on Sunday night. That's at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on ABC. LaKeena, I had Oklahoma City in 6. I'll give my prediction in just a minute. But watching last night's game, after OKC jumped out to an early 10-4 lead, it was Indiana all the way from there on out. They were being aggressive on defense. Oklahoma City was turning the ball over carelessly. Indiana was passing the ball very well. They got inside the paint. They shot the ball better overall. They wanted it more than OKC did. They were the better team. They deserved the win.
Well, yeah, it's 21-10 in turnovers. 21 turnovers for the Thunder. That's not that you're not going to win games that way. And Like I said, the guys off the bench, Obi Toppin had 20 points off the bench. I'm talking about McConnell, 12 points off the bench as well. And this is actually with Halliburton, of course, that calf injury. He looked okay, 14 points, but they got contributions from other guys. Siakam had 16, and Aaron Neward had 17. So, and also they shot much better for 3-point range. 35.7. I know that's not the But compared to OKC, they were only 8 for 30. So that didn't help the Thunder's cause. Of course, SGA only had 21, 16 points for Jalen Williams. Holmgren only had 4. So this is what Game 7, like we said earlier with Christine. I mean, this is gonna be all gonna depend on who wants more. It's for all the marbles. And if you're the Pacers, you want to try, keep being aggressive. Force SGA and the rest of that group to hit big shots. Thunder, you got it. Guys like Chet Holmgren, they got to step up. Hardenstein needs to step up as well. We saw this was like years ago, but if you remember in '84, guess who was the guy that was in that Lakers Celtics series? Who was the guy that kind of like helped the Celtics win that championship against the Lakers in '84 in those finals?
I'm not on Google, but I know who he ended up winning series MVP. He's the radio analyst for the Celtics. That's Mr. Cedric Maxwell.
Ding, ding, ding. Yes, sir. And we'll see if we might get
number 31.
Yep, and we may see we might get one of those unsung heroes, like I said, like your Hardensteins, the Newharts, the McConnells, your Alex Caruso's, Isaiah Joes. I mean, we may see that guy that kind of comes out of nowhere and has a career game, and just when their team needs it the most.
Yeah, it's all about execution at this point for Game 7, leaving it out on the floor. And as you said, with both these teams being very good defensive teams, I know Oklahoma City, the top-rated defensive team with the defensive efficiency all year. But as we told you guys, Indiana's sneaky good too. We saw that 2 out of the last 3 games with the Pacers having wins in those, being the better defensive team. But what I want to see out of OKC is sharing the basketball and taking care of the basketball. First of all, to share the basketball, you got to take care of it. And last night they didn't do that. I want to see Oklahoma City share the basketball and get more guys involved outside of SGA. Jalen Williams had a hot start to the game, but he cooled off just like everybody else. And you mentioned about OKC's bench. If Mike Diagonal has to go in the water and get one of those unsung heroes to give him something, he's going to have to do it, because this is it. It's for all the marbles. And Alex Caruso, love you, but I didn't see anything from you last night. And also, too, Casey Wallace, didn't see anything from him last night. So you mentioned, LaKeena, it's going to come from an unsung hero. Who can it be now? Shout out to Men at Work. But so who's it going to be, that unsung hero? On the flip side, for the Indiana Pacers, I've been telling you about TJ McConnell these last 2 playoff series. Against the Knicks, he did very well, and he's been superb in these finals. Got player of the game last night. He got interviewed by NBA TV International folks, people are taking notice of him. Also, you mentioned Obi Toppin. You think the Knicks wouldn't like having him back right now? Also, too, with Isaiah Hardenstein on the other side of OKC. So those guys have been making a difference. But the one player that I want to see step up for the Pacers in Game 7, and he's kind of been hit and miss, and in my opinion, it's been mostly a miss more than a hit. Miles Turner, where you, buddy? Where you, buddy?
He might be due. He might be due for this. And like I said, we've seen these unsung. He probably would be considered an unsung hero if he comes out and gets like 22 or 25 points or something like that. So, like I said, usually these Game 7s, you get these guys that kind of come out of nowhere and have career games. So, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm gonna say, look, the Pacers have been sneaky good, and their defense is really solid, and they did steal Game 1 in OKC. So would it be fitting that the last game, this is a 2-1-2-2-1-1-1 format? I know some people want it back to like 2-3-2, but that's
unfortunately not going to happen.
That's not happening anytime soon, folks. Sorry for the television and such, but I guess that's for another time. But I'll say the Pacers win, and I guess I'll say Siakam wins Finals MVP.
I said OKC in 6. I'm sticking with my original pick. I'm going with Oklahoma City, and I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will be an MVP. I think that's that's the obvious pick, but I'm like I'm expecting Chet Holmgren and Alex Caruso to have big games. If both of those guys do that, I think OKC wins. Now, I had the unfortunate, even though it was a personal choice of mine, I decided to turn to First Take, or as I call it, First Fake, earlier this morning. I know they're live from the Fanatics Fan Convention in NYC. And Stephen A. Smith actually said something educational. He said this, I'm paraphrasing here. If Indiana can keep it close with 3 minutes or 4 minutes to go and they are trailing about 4 or 5 points, that's the kind of game that they like to play. I say, yeah, that's true, because I know they've been known for comebacks throughout the playoffs, from Milwaukee to Cleveland through the Knicks series, of course, through the OKC series. We saw that in game 1. But if Indiana, he said this, and I quote, if the Pacers are down 5 with like 3 or 4 minutes to go, that's the kind of game they like, because of what happened with OKC last night. You started to play a little psyche. They started to get nervous. I said, yeah, he does have a point. But here's the thing. With Tyrese Halliburton, I think he barely played 22, 23 minutes last night. With them having LeBron in the second half, I think that's going to benefit him, because I think it will be a close game from start to finish. And if OKC is starting to pull away in that fourth quarter, I think you can say goodnight to the Pacers. But if the Pacers can't keep it close, like Stephen A. Smith said, with 5 minutes to go, they're trailing by 5 points. I think you'll see Tyrese Halliburton explode here. I think Rick Carlisle, the Pacers head coach, is going to monitor his minutes, obviously. But if the Pacers are there, look for Tyrese Halliburton to give it all he has to close it out, because he's been the best closer in these playoffs thus far.
Could come down to the last second shot too. So
yeah, just like in game 1.
Yeah, so we'll see. It's going to be very interesting there. So of course you can catch Game 7 of the NBA Finals coming up on Sunday on ABC. I know the ratings haven't been very good, but I think the ratings should be pretty good for this, just because it's Game 7 and it really doesn't have that much alternative to watch. So I think the ratings will be a lot better for a Game 7. I know the series as a whole has not been very good, but I think this will probably be. I think this will probably get a good rating on Sunday.
Yeah, I know it's been a lower rated series, the lowest rated series on record. People forget about that 0-3 series between the Spurs and the Nets. That was very low too. I know a couple of years ago with Miami and Denver too. But if the game is close throughout, I think more people will tune in and watch. Has it been the greatest series of all time? No. Has it been very competitive despite what happened last night? Yes. But I think we're going to get a good game, Game 7, and I cannot wait. The last time the NBA Finals featured a Game 7 was 9 years ago between Golden State and Cleveland. We know what happened with that. LeBron James returned to Cleveland. Cleveland, this is for you. Giving them their last NBA title. Of course, the last road team to win a Game 7 was the 2016 Cleveland Cavaliers. So history are on the line for both teams. OKC, as we mentioned last time they were in the finals, it was back in 2012 when they lost to LeBron James and crew in the Miami Heat. It was Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook Harden on the other side. And of course, for the Indiana Pacers, the last time they were in the finals, they lost in 6 games to the Kobe and Shaq Los Angeles Lakers. So history will be on the line for both these teams tomorrow. Can the Indiana Pacers become the first road team since the 2016 Cavaliers to win a Game 7 on the road? Or will Oklahoma City finally meet expectations, deliver that franchise's first title since the 79 Seattle Sonics?
Yeah, with the one Dennis Johnson on that squad.
Downtown Freddie Brown, yeah.
Yes, yep. So it'll be the first road KC.
Lenny Wilkins too. Let's not forget about him.
Yeah, he was the coach of that squad in his very polyester suits.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. Yes. All right. Now, of course, we'll see about that. Now, sticking with the NBA here first. I usually Second City Sports on Sports with Kyle, LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you. Now we can discuss the change of ownership for the Lakers. We talked about it earlier. We tried to talk about it with Christine, but Mark Walter, who already owns the Dodgers, he has bought a majority stake of the Lakers for $10 billion. Now, here's the context here. When Jerry Buss originally purchased the Lakers from Jack Kent Cooke, it was $67.5 million back in 1979, and of course that was cool. Of course, it also included the LA K's in the Forum. Since then, of course, in 1980, of course, the Lakers have won 11 championships. That's the most by any NBA team during that span. Now, of course, Jeannie Buss, his daughter, will still have controlling. We'll control some of the operations, but it will be, I guess, Walter's going to be, I guess, writing the checks, I guess. So it'll be interesting to see, they're going to be opening up the pocketbooks a little bit. So we'll see if they can make those big moves. I'm sure LeBron probably wants, to support with him and Luka. So this is a pretty big deal for Lakers, especially if you're a Lakers fan, because they're not afraid to spend. Mark Walter isn't.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, what Walter and his ownership group is doing with the Dodgers. Don't forget they have multiple streams coming in, not only with their TV deal, which the Lakers are part of with Spectrum Sportsnet. The Dodgers have the Japanese money coming in, especially now with Shohei Ohtani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who he didn't look that great last night, but that's a whole nother issue. But with multiple streams of revenue coming in, of course, we know the Lakers are not just a nationwide brand, but they're a worldwide brand. When we talk about sports franchises here in the United States, it's them, the New York Yankees, the Boston Celtics, the Dallas Cowboys, the Chicago Bears. And so the Lakers are right up there. And like you said, they won't be afraid to spend money. I know when that happens, of course, the LeBron James will be gone by then, but they're going to have to pay Luka, and they got to have to put another star or two around Luka eventually. So you said they have the cash to do. Well, to see if they can put their money where their mouth is. I think they will.
Yeah, they will, and I think that they are going to be who they are is going to be sought after. So that's going to be interesting. What happens. I mean, it's done well for the Dodgers so far. So,
and he's going to be grabbing headlines in terms of being an owner. You know that Steve Ballmer, who's across the street at the Intuit Dome with the Clippers, he also has deep pockets. So that's an interesting dynamic there.
They might be competing for a lot of free agents too, and draft picks and such. So it's kind of an even playing field now. So it's going to be interesting down there in the City of Angels with their NBA teams.
All right, let's do that hockey, LaKeena. Your Florida Panthers are the 2025 Stanley Cup champions. They're the first team to do back-to-back. I forgot to mention this team on Monday. I'll mention it here. They're the first team to do back-to-back since the 2020-2021 Tampa Bay Lightning. Of course, I mentioned this team before, the Tampa Bay Lightning, a few years ago. The 2016 to 2017 Pittsburgh Penguins were the other team that last did the back-to-back Stanley Cup championships. Are we witnessing a dynasty for the Florida Panthers here?
Well, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens now. Of course, Sam Bennett, who's the Conn Smythe Trophy, is the first award of his NHL career after 10 full seasons in the league. He's actually the first NHL player to win the Conn Smythe Trophy as his first award after playing at least 10 seasons in the league. Now, as far as Marchand, you're not going to be able to keep him. So, and let's see, and also I think Makachuk's contract comes up in a couple of years as well. So you're going to have to pay him. So we know that it's hard to repeat just asshole Blackhawk teams back in the early 2010s. And like I said, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But look, shout out to Seth Jones. Finally gets his first championship ring. Actually, he's the first guy named Seth to win a Stanley Cup championship. I was kind of worried that somebody said that, but yeah, I guess all those names are there. There's not a guy named Seth, so I guess that kind of makes sense. But you're happy for those guys. They actually went by guys that had not won. They kind of went a different style. So good for them. Good for Paul Maurice, who finally has back-to-back titles now after being after. So it's gonna be I don't know if they're a new dynasty, but it's gonna be hard for them to keep everybody together though.
Yeah, as we all know that the NHL has a hard salary cap. You have a floor and then you have a ceiling, so you cannot keep everybody. And that's just the nature of pro sports in general. But the NHL has a hard salary cap, and like you said, try to keep everybody together. That's just not possible. So expect some change. I'm not saying they're going to tear it down and rebuild it. No, that's not happening anytime soon because they have some young guys. But those hardcore glue veteran guys, those will be difficult to keep.
Now, as far as the Oilers are concerned, of course, if you remember, Connor McDavid, his contract's up after next season, so you wonder, there's some questions whether he might stay. So, I don't know. I know Draisaitl just got a new contract a couple of years ago, but if McDavid leaves after next season, then if you're Draisaitl, you're like, well, wait a second, I gotta leave too because I don't want to stay without my fellow forward line guys. So I don't know. I mean, the Oilers again, it's 32 years in a row since the Canadian team has won the cup. So It's just, yeah, you kind of feel bad for those guys. And, you ran into a buzzsaw that was of the Panthers. So Skinner,
Yeah.
I don't know if Skinner was going to be able to do anything, with that, but.
Yeah, their goalie change did not help them as the Panthers smell blood and winning for the kill. But let me ask you this: even though the NHL was happy with having a Canadian team in the final, even though the ratings weren't that great because a Canadian team was in the final this year as far as ratings here in America, riddle me this: even though the higher ups in the NHL were happy that the Edmonton Oilers, i.e., Connor McDavid, the best hockey player on the planet, was in the final. Do you think you don't think that for 1 minute that, let's just say that he plays this out, which I think is going to happen. That's just my prediction, even though it's early. Let's just say that Connor McDavid plays this out and goes to free agency. You don't think that a few of those NHL executives want him to come to America? Do you want him to come to New York Rangers, bigger brand, number one city in America? I know this is a pipe dream, but I'm gonna put it out there.
I know what
you don't think that, let's just say this team makes some sort of improvement next year. You don't think that Connor McDavid wants to come to the Blackhawks and join Connor Bedard? Like I said, it's a pipe dream, but you don't think a couple of NHL execs want to, he looks the best hockey player on the planet, teamed up with the prodigy.
I mean, look,
I think that first scenario that I put out there, him joining the New York Rangers.
Yeah, that's
I
probably
think that's more realistic.
Yeah.
You don't think NHL execs don't want to see that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think if you're the Blackhawks, somehow they make they make a little bit of leeway these next couple of years, maybe. I mean, Kyle Davidson, assuming that he's still the GM, they're sure he's not going to be looking to see what to do with that. I guess maybe the Kings, even though I know they're not household names, but they have won cups won cups recently. Detroit. Maybe Buffalo, Boston, one of the original six. Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. We'll see where they are by then in Philadelphia. Remember, Ray Tockett's over there now in Philadelphia, so it's going to be
Mr. Gambling Man.
yeah. I mean, look. There's going to be a lot of like I said, we're a long ways from this happening, but it's going to be interesting to see. Like if you're the NHL, if you're Gary Bettman, you're probably thinking, if we can get one of the best players in the league in a bigger market here in this side of the border here in the States, who knows?
You have Austin Matthews, who's originally from Arizona. He's with the Toronto Maple Leafs. You can't get him over here in America, but Connor McDavid playing for original six franchise is a strong possibility. Just putting it out there. I'm not saying I'm not guaranteeing it anything, but I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah. So. Like I said, to be continued. Like I said, this is going to be something to look out for in this next couple of years. So, going to be interesting here. And of course, we talked about earlier, like Christine, Jonathan Toews, back in the NHL, he'll be playing for his hometown of Winnipeg, and it's a 2-year deal. He knows it's going to be a lot of incentives. So, he hasn't played in 2 years. You got to think that the Jets, I'm sure they're going to be wiping that taste out of their mouths after getting an early exit in the playoffs. He could definitely give them a spark and give that veteran presence that they need. And of course, winning 3 cups, that'll help as well. So I think this is a good signing all around. I know it would have been nice if the deal to happen back in Chicago in the Blackhawks, but that wasn't realistic.
Yeah, as we said before, the Blackhawks are nowhere the Stanley Cup contenders. They still rebuilding, not even close to being a playoff team. And even though, as Christine said, it would have been nice for Jonathan Toews to end his career in the Blackhawks sweater, that's not going to happen. But with him being on Winnipeg, he's that veteran guy that you need, not only on the ice, but most importantly in their locker room, communicating the message from the head coach to trickle down to the young guys, teaching them and giving them some pointers that they haven't heard before, and teaching some of those young guys how to be a pro both on and off the ice as well.
So anything else before we disperse? I know we guys still got a few more minutes left.
I'm ready to cool off this weekend. Like I said, I know I'm heading out there to the north side tomorrow to watch Kate Horton and your Chicago Cubs against your Seattle Mariners. They'll be my Seattle Mariners at least for tomorrow. So I'm interested to see how to watch Kate Horton in person. I know he's been very impressive. We talked about that earlier with Mike Berman from ABC5 Chicago. We'll see what Sammy Sosa does or says throughout the rest of the day, today and throughout the weekend. Of course, we'll have the recap on our show in our next episode coming up this Monday on the program. But I'm interested to see how the Cubs bounce back after the loss to Milwaukee yesterday. I know they're leading right now. If you're watching us live, they're currently leading in the third inning, 3-1 over Seattle. We mentioned about the Cubs winning many different ways so far this year. The weather's heating up, so hopefully, if you're a Cubs fan, like LaKeena is here, Kyle Tucker's numbers start to improve. Seiya Suzuki's numbers starting to improve, and can Pete Armstrong keep up this hot pace now? He already has 20 home runs. We're not even in July yet.
Well, and also, like Mike said, it'll be interesting to see what veteran pitcher do they go after going to the trade line. I know Chris Sale's name has been floating around there for the Braves. I mean, I don't want to give up any top prospects. I know you might have to, but I don't want to just to like a 2-3 month rental. So maybe Jay Hoyer, maybe he'll have something up his sleeve. We'll see what happens. But yeah, there could be guys out there. Well, we'll talk more about it down the line here in these next few weeks. But gonna get a little bit interesting down there in the trade deadline. So we'll see.
Yeah, and just a note of going to closing out with football. The Bears training camp, as I think you mentioned earlier, LaKeena. I think it was in our interview with Mike. The Bears training camp dates are set. The Bears rookies report to training camp at Hallis Hall July 19th. Veterans on the 22nd. One more again, as the kids would say. Bears training camp will start at Hallis Hall July 19th with the rookies reporting first. The veterans will report on July 22nd.
So we'll definitely try to get some people on in between that time to talk some Bears. So we got a little bit of time for camp. So we got a little bit of about a month. So we'll see if we can get more some people on to talk some Bears. Now, real quick with sports media news, Laura Oakman, who is Skokie native, longtime NFL sideline reporter for Fox. She decided that she's leaving after 23 years. Basically, she wants to get a chance to mentor young women in the business, galvanize, good for her. Also, could LeBron perhaps maybe going to Amazon? I guess there's some tea leaves out there. According to Mike McCarthy from Front Office Sports, say that they may, LeBron might be, putting a little plan in place to, so he can, start working at Amazon within the next year or two. Who knows? But it's just I saw that earlier. I was just like, really? But okay.
Yeah. This crazy thing we call sports media is forever changing, and the wheels continue to turn.
All right. Oh, also too, for all you college baseball fans, the men's college World Series best of 3 starts, I believe, tonight. You got the start tomorrow, I should say. You got the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers and LSU. Both are trying to get back into the winner circle. So should be interesting to see what happens here. Now, game 1 will be, it's the best of 3 though. So game 1 will be tomorrow night at 6 on ESPN, also streamed on ESPN Plus. And Sunday's game, we're getting a little ABC treatment. It'll be at 1:30 on ABC. So, and if necessary, game 3 will be on Monday on the ESPN Monday night. But again, let's get these 2 games out the way. It'll be, like I said, LSU and Coastal Carolina for the men's college World Series.
All right, LaKeena, take us home.
You can follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, @LaKeena on IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. And please subscribe to our podcast. We're located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We're on all podcast platforms, including that iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in the living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in the living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Of course, you can catch replays of our show, Sean Sierra Sports, the Smoke Fellas, and so much more. You can catch Sports Zone Chicago's great content anytime, anywhere on the Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channel. So if you miss an interview, if you miss a segment, don't worry. You can catch the replays anytime, anywhere on the Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels.
and you know we will provide.
Of course, we want to thank our buddies Mike Berman from NBC5 Chicago, and as well as our girl Christine Mack from KXRB for joining us today. It was a great catch up with both of them. We gotta get Mike on again. I know it's been 2 years since we last had him on, so we're definitely gonna be having him on more often.
Yep, and he also covers the Bears for NBC5 Chicago as well. So hopefully we get him on during the football season.
All right, so I know it's going to be hot in a lot of spots around the Midwest and the Central Plains, and I know I hate the time of year too, Sid, like in the
but it's better than having 30 degrees below zero. I'll put it that way. I'm looking at it from that vantage point.
Yeah, so if you don't have to go out, stay in a cool place. If you are going to go out, make sure you guys stay cool, stay hydrated, drink lots of water. Yes. And so much more, and enjoy all the sports. The NBA Finals. We'll see if we get a classic Game 7 here. Of course, the Men's College World Series, baseball, WNBA. Angel Reese has been playing very well lately, so good for her. And all the great sports coming up at this time of year. So for Sid, I'm LaKeena with Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We'll see you guys on Monday.
Go Sox, holla!